Thank you, Yashodhanji. It's nice that you have invited me to speak on a subject which is very close to my heart because I belong to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and we are talking about that state. We are reflecting on the human rights situation in the part of Jammu and Kashmir state which remains under illegal occupation of Pakistan since 1947. You know that on 22nd of October 1947, Pakistan sponsored tribesmen from the northwest frontier province of Pakistan of those days launched an invasion of Kashmir under a plan drawn by Pakistani army men and politicians to annex Kashmir by force of arms. Although the Maharaja of Kashmir, who had been given the right by the Transfer of Power Act to decide whether he would join India or Pakistan, had concluded a standstill agreement with Pakistan, thereby asking for more time to decide what he would do. Pakistan accepted standstill agreement, but only within few days they broke it by sending the tribal Lashkars to attack Kashmir. And what followed was a sort of blitzkrieg. Muzaffarabad fell on 22nd of October 1947, and Baramulla, the entrepot to the valley, fell on 26th of October. And the raiders, they are not raiders, but they are actually invaders, were poised to capture Srinagar, and in the meanwhile, Maharaja was forced to ask Government of India for military intervention to restore normalcy in his state the normalcy had been disrupted because of the invasion. The Government of India considered the matter, of course, was very urgent, but there was a technical snag. Unless J&K state had joined formally the Indian Union, it was not possible for Government of India to send army to J&K state. So the instrument of accession was signed by Maharaja of Kashmir, and on the 27th morning, Indian Army landed in Srinagar. It resulted in a fight with the invaders, and on the night of 7th and 8th of November, the invaders were defeated and hundreds of them were slain on the battlefield in the outskirts of Srinagar, and they had to retire, and thus the valley was saved. The fighting continued till 1948, throughout the 1948, and then through intervention of world powers, ceasefire was introduced on the night of 31st December 1948. As a result of ceasefire, a large chunk of the territory of Jammu and Kashmir state, measuring nearly 86,000 square kilometers, remained in the possession of Pakistan. And Pakistan thereafter began to think that this was the territory which belonged to her or which she had owned, not not taking into account that it was only a ceasefire till negotiations would be conducted and the issue would be resolved. India approached the Security Council for the resolution of intrusion. India's plea was that attack had been launched on J&K state, which was now an Indian territory, and the United States Security Council was approached to vacate that aggression. The vacation never happened. Several resolutions were passed, and the most important resolution was of January 1949, in which the Security Council said that the fighting men and the armies of Pakistan should vacate, and the administration of the state should rest with the Srinagar government administration, and then a referendum would be held under the aegis of the United Nations Security Council. India would reduce its arms and normalcy was restored. So these were the conditions. These conditions were never filled by Pakistan. Pakistan never withdrew a single soldier. Not only that, Pakistan reinforced its military position in Kashmir by deploying more and more troops formally. In the beginning, Pakistan declined that she had any role, her army had any role. But then finally, there was no way out when the United Nations Commission came to J&K. The Pakistan announced that, yes, they were involved and the Pakistan army was involved. Well, after that, the question went on lingering there at the United Nations Security Council, and the debates continued, and even it is still on the agenda there, though at one or two times it was deleted from the agenda, but because of the machinations of Pakistan, it was brought again. Anyway, now leaving that aside, that's the background. But now, what happened? The territory of about 86,000 square kilometers, which remained under the illegal control of Pakistan, is actually comprising two parts. One is what they call Azad Jammu and Kashmir, and what Indians call POK, means Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. This is one part. It's about 72,000 square kilometers in area. And the other part of this illegally occupied area is called Gilgit and Baltistan, or the northern areas, which is about 72,495 square kilometers in area. Whereas Pakistan is about 13,528 square kilometers in area, and both of them put together make an 86,023 square kilometers of area. The first question which arises is, what is the legal status of this area, which is called Azad Kashmir by Pakistan, and POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir by India, because it's illegally occupied. What is its status? The status, according to United Nations documents, is very hazy. It is neither a state. It is neither a state nor a province of Pakistan. It is almost a local authority, something like a local authority, where the locals claiming to be the leaders are contending that They have formed the government and they are running the administration. Actually, Pakistan has taken this area called POK directly under its control. Pakistan has the Kashmir Ministry, and it is the Kashmir Ministry of Pakistan whose secretary is having all the authority of governing this area, what we call POK. About Gilgit and Baltistan, I will come later. That was declared northern area, and in a way it was separated from POK administratively and militarily. POK, which comprises Gilgit and Baltistan, was originally part of Jammu and Kashmir state. And in 1947, the Gilgit Scouts, a semi-military force which was created by the British, who had taken part of Gilgit as directly under its control because of strategic importance. They had placed the Gilgit Scouts under one British captain named Captain Brown. Captain Brown revolted against the authority of Maharaja and joined hands with Pakistan and handed over Gilgit and Baltistan to Pakistan as a gift. So it was not, there was no legal formation. There was no sort of opinion gathering of the people of Gilgit and Baltistan, whether they wanted to join Pakistan or not. But this was done arbitrarily by the Pakistan military in connivance with Captain Brown. Then in 1949, what Pakistan government did, they concluded a treaty called Karachi Agreement. According to that, in the light of that agreement, northern India's control was given in the hands of, it was separated from POK and given directly in the hands of Pakistan government. The point is that who signed the Karachi Agreement? Who were the signatories to the Karachi Agreement? Pakistan, Muslim Conference, and Azad Jammu and Kashmir leaders. The Muslim Conference was actually a political party that was running politics of J&K state even before partition of India. No member, no representative from Gilgit and Baltistan was a signatory to Karachi Agreement. This was an arrangement between Pakistan government, Muslim Conference based in POK, and their leadership. They had no representative from Gilgit and Baltistan. Now, this is one of the big violations of the rights of the people of Gilgit and Baltistan, that they have been taken over, their administration and control has been taken over by Pakistan without the consent of the people. And the agitation, which continues in Gilgit and Baltistan down to this day, and in which hundreds of people have been killed by repression and oppression by Pakistan army, is because initially the forcible occupation of Gilgit and Baltistan is resented by the people of those regions. Many of their leaders have been put behind bars and have been denied the right to self-determination because they were never part of Pakistan. That's one major area of violation of human rights. These people have their freedom organizations fighting at various levels in Pakistan, outside Pakistan, at the United Nations, and everywhere in the free world. They are trying to bring their voice that they have been oppressed and illegally occupied by Pakistan. That's one part of the story. As far as POK is concerned, I said that Pakistan government has a Kashmir Ministry of Kashmir Affairs, and the administration of POK is nominally in the hands of the locals, but actual administration is run by the Secretary for Kashmir Affairs. He has the right even to depose the president or any functionary in that area. POK people have of late been resenting against so many violations of human rights. In the first place, there is a contradiction in what is called the Constitution of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. The contradiction is that Clause 1 of the Constitution says that the future of the state of Jammu and Kashmir will be decided in accordance with the resolution of the Security Council of January 1948. Now, this resolution, as I said in the beginning, says that Pakistan will pull out its fighting forces, fighting men from its area or illegally occupied area, restore government in the hands of Srinagar administration. India will pull out some of its troops, and only that number of troops will be retained as necessary for law and order, and then a plebiscite will be held. Now, this contradiction is that these conditions have never been fulfilled, number one. Number two, clause number 2 of the Constitution of Azad Kashmir, so-called Azad Kashmir, says that every citizen of Azad Kashmir has to make a pledge that they will remain faithful to Pakistan. And every government employee of the state of that region has to give an undertaking that he will be faithful to Pakistan. Now, this is the contradiction. If you want referendum, how can they make a pledge that they will remain faithful to Pakistan? The basis of violation of human rights in POK arises from denial of the right to self-determination to the people of POK. Now, there has been a moment from the very early times of independent Jammu and Kashmir. And independent Jammu and Kashmir is gall to Pakistani authorities. They are not at all prepared. Anybody giving a call for independent Kashmir is called a traitor, and he is treated as an enemy, incarcerated, imprisoned, and punitive punishment is given. This continues down to this day. Therefore, it has become very easy for Pakistan government to label anybody as an anti-Pakistan by asking for independence. The JKLF, Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Front, which was based in POK, has been the torchbearer from the very beginning for independent POK, and they carried their fight to the other part of Kashmir also. That's a different story. But the violation of the right to self-determination, because they do not want to remain a part of Pakistan because Pakistan does not provide them the rights which they enjoy, which they should enjoy as citizens of POK. The assembly that has been constituted, for which the laws have been made, are in a way that the authority ultimately remains in the hands of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And some members who are elected or selected, there is a provision for selection, reservation, and there is a provision for election. They are there. But the final word remains with the Prime Minister, who is the chairman of the Kashmir Council. So this is in no way one can call it a democratic system. It's not a democratic system. In regard to other rights, the foremost complaint of the people of POK is about discrimination. They complain that they are discriminated against by the Pakistani government and Pakistani setup structure, administrative structure in POK. The ISI, that is the intelligence organization of Pakistan, is running the whole show. There have been elections, nominal elections, but in the first place, anybody who declares that he is a candidate for the ideology of independent Kashmir, his papers are rejected as not allowed. He is arrested, he is punished, and even tortured if he is adamant. And there are several instances in which even people have been disappeared and they have nobody knows what happened to them. The effort of Pakistan government is not to allow any element that supports freedom of Kashmir as an independent state, not to allow them in any way. So all the hell is broken when anybody tries to bring out a rally or a demonstration or make a movement or lead a movement for independent Kashmir. Notwithstanding all these oppressive measures, people have been coming out on the streets and demanding freedom from various restraints imposed on the people of Pakistan. They are demanding education, they are demanding development in health schemes, in roads, in other developmental areas for which Pakistan does not care that much as the people demand. Most of the people of POK, nearly 1 million of them, have shifted to UK. Earlier they went as stokers, but later on more and more people left POK and went in search of means of subsistence and especially to enjoy the freedom which they don't have in foreign countries, mostly in UK. So they have a strong diaspora in UK and they are regularly demonstrating for freedom and self-rule in POK. One of their grouses is that the waters of the dams which have been constructed on River Jhelum has been the power generated from them has been supplied in plenty to the villages and nooks and corners of Pakistan, whereas its revenue has not, which is the right of the people of POK, has not been transferred to them. That is one of the a violation of the rights. They are not masters of the sources of the water resources flowing in their part of the country. The second violation is that there is a large foreign remittance from this diaspora to the Pakistan coffers. And Pakistan uses this money for the development of its own citizens and its own areas, not spending that money as it should be for the development of POK and providing it the various schemes in education and health and road connectivity and so forth and so on. That is a violation exactly because the money belongs to them, belongs to the diaspora who are sending the money, but they are not taking full use of this money. It's not being utilized for them. Now, the original state of Jammu and Kashmir, meaning now the part with India, they have reserved 24 seats in the state assembly for the people of POK. At any time when POK is taken back and the ancient state is recreated, they will make use of those 24 seats which have remained reserved. But in Pakistan, these seats are being manipulated for in a way that that they serve the interests of Pakistan rather than the interests of Kashmir or their own POK area. Their grouse is that people who are not at all entitled or who do not have the legitimacy to be the representatives of the people are put in places of power by Pakistani government. Anybody who does not support the dictate of ISI cannot become any important functionary in the administration or in the legislative structure of POK. And the authority is vested in Kashmir Ministry to the extent that a simple inspector of police or deputy inspector general of police can lift a prime minister and take him in the helicopter to Islamabad as his prisoner. And there's nobody to check why this happens. That is the state of servility, state of slavery to which the people of Pakistan, of POK, have been reduced. And in Gilgit and Baltistan, now Pakistan has allowed China to build the Karakoram Road via Gilgit and Baltistan, which starts from Xinjiang and joins Gwadar port. India has objected to it. India has protested because Pakistan, after having occupied Gilgit and Baltistan, surrendered nearly 5,000 square kilometers of Aksai Chin of Shaksgam area to China. And the agreement, as we are told, between Pakistan and China is that this is a temporary arrangement and the question will be finalized, the transfer of the area will be finalized finally when the dispute over Kashmir between India and Pakistan is resolved. Now, 72, 73 years have passed and the question has not been resolved. Pakistan is not in a mood to resolve Kashmir issue. They will never resolve it at any time because it is not Pakistani people. It is not the elected government of Pakistan which has a say in resolving Kashmir issue. It is Pakistan Army and ISI who have the authority and power to resolve the Kashmir issue after negotiating the question with India. But they will not do it, and they have never allowed to happen it. When Atal Bihari Vajpayee traveled in a bus to Lahore with the tacit purpose of building relationship, building confidence, the then president of Pakistan, General Musharraf, had secretly planned the Kargil operation. What does it mean? It clearly means that he was apprehensive that Nawaz Sharif and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, two prime ministers, might arrive at some agreement and that would resolve Kashmir issue. He did not want its resolution. Therefore, he scuttled it. This has happened a number of times, even during the days when Benazir Bhutto was the Prime Minister of Pakistan and Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India. They too had begun negotiations through backdoor emissaries, and they are reported to be heading towards towards a sort of agreement on Kashmir issue. But then suddenly Benazir was removed by the ISI. So it's a clear fact, it's a clear scenario that ISI and military of Pakistan will not allow Kashmir issue to be resolved. And they will continue to send infiltrators, the terrorists, clandestinely by crossing the border into Kashmir to create mayhem in Indian part of the valley. The people of the Neelam Valley, which is the strategic line from which these terrorists clandestinely come over, sneak into India. The people of this Neelam Valley have been protesting for many years. They have even been blocking the road and saying that they will not allow their area to be made heaven for terrorists, to be made a terrorist camp, a terrorist territory, and they do not want it. They want to live a life of peace and freedom and not a terrorist area controlled by ISI and the army. But the army Pakistan army has its way, the ISI has its way, and they are pushing the militants through that area, which is very convenient for them to cross over and come to the Kashmir Valley for creating trouble. So this is also one of the violations of human rights of the people of POK when against their wishes terrorists are sent, camps are established, movement of terrorists is allowed, and arming of those people is allowed, thereby exposing their areas to the military action, retaliatory action by the Indian troops. After all, their homes and hearts all along the LOC line, they get destroyed in shelling and fire. So this is again the violation of human rights. The health centers, there's the condition of health centers and medical services in POK is appalling. And the people with serious health problems have traveled all the way from Muzaffarabad and Kotli and Bagh and Mirpur, all the way to either to Rawalpindi or Lahore and other places for treatment. There's no adequate medical treatment, what will be called the all such medical institute, like medical institutes. There's no medical institute that takes care of all medical problems of the people in that area. Same is true about education. There are some universities. There is a university with scattered colleges, different towns and places, not very adequate, and higher education is almost in negligible state in that country. And one wonders what will be the fate of the people whose political destiny is undecided, whose development in all walks of life, in education, medical, tourism, or road connectivity, power development, so forth and so on, all remain subject to the sweet will of Pakistani planners. If they want it, okay. If they don't want it, no. Nobody can press them. And in elections, we have seen in all these elections, they are all rigged. And in the first place, their nomination papers of the people who are not liked by ISI are rejected. And then rigging also takes place. And in many cases, candidates are disappeared. They are taken to places where from they are not known what's happened to them. There are many such cases. So election is a farce, democracy is a farce, and the entire government is a farce. It is a bogus state, what we may call in short, where everything apparently seems to be in the hands of local people, but nothing is in their hands. They have no rights as independent as are the rights with the people of independent states. It is not a state, it's not a union, it's not a province, and there have been many attempts to declare it a province, but there's contradiction within contradiction, and they are not able to declare it a province, fifth province of Pakistan. So that is an overall situation of this area. They are used only as a pawn, and political parties, national political parties, have made inroads now into Azad Kashmir, but the POK, its own parties, political parties seeking independence, are not allowed to flourish, to thrive. That is the problem of POK and the abuse of human rights of the people in this area. Thank you very much.